You're in an elevator, and it stops between floors. Nothing has actually gone wrong yet. No alarms, no smoke, just stillness. But your heart is already pounding. Your palms are sweating. Your mind is running to every worst-case scenario it can find. The doors haven't even opened yet, and your body has already decided this is an emergency. The real answer is far stranger than a fear of small spaces. Your brain isn't afraid of the elevator. It's afraid of something much older, something written into you long before elevators, or buildings, or floors existed at all. 200,000 years ago, your ancestors lived in a world with no locked doors, but plenty of places you could get trapped. A narrow ravine, a cave with one exit, a thicket where the only way out was the way you came in. For a vulnerable animal, and humans were vulnerable for most of our history, being trapped could become a death sentence. A predator didn't need to be faster than you. It just needed you to run out of room. So natural selection built something into the human nervous system, a threat alarm that becomes especially loud when there is no visible exit. Psychologists call this a fear of confinement, but the deeper mechanism has a name. Evolutionary psychologist Randolph Nesse has spent decades studying what he calls smoke detector emotions, systems in the body that are built to overreact rather than underreact, because the cost of a false alarm is small, and the cost of missing a real threat is death. Panic in an enclosed space is one of the loudest smoke detectors we carry. Think about what actually happens in your body during that stuck elevator. Your amygdala, the brain's threat detector, doesn't wait for evidence. It doesn't check whether the elevator is actually dangerous. It fires first and asks questions later. Cortisol floods your bloodstream. Your heart rate spikes. Your muscles tense, ready to run or fight, even though there is nowhere to run and nothing to fight. This is called the fight or flight response, and it was never designed for elevators. It was designed for a world where being trapped meant something was hunting you. Here's where it gets stranger. Researcher Joseph LeDoux, whose work on the amygdala reshaped how we understand fear, found that this threat response can fire before your conscious mind even understands what's happening. You feel afraid before you know why. Your body reacts to trapped as a category, not to elevators specifically. That's why the fear doesn't care that you're in a modern building, surrounded by safety mechanisms, with a phone in your pocket and help a phone call away. Your ancient alarm system doesn't read the manual. It just recognizes the shape of the threat. Enclosed, limited exits, no control. This is also why crowded subway cars, packed elevators, and even certain small rooms can trigger the exact same spike, even when you know that you are completely safe. Logic isn't the language this system speaks. There's a name for the specific fear of situations where escape might be difficult. Claustrophobia, but the wider category is even more revealing. Researchers who study anxiety disorders have found that many of our most common modern fears aren't really about the object itself. They're about the loss of an exit, public speaking, being stuck in traffic, even certain social situations, like a conversation you can't politely leave. Your body doesn't process, "I feel awkward," the same way it processes, "I am trapped and cannot leave." But in a room, at a dinner table, in a meeting that won't end, sometimes those two things start to feel identical. That's not a coincidence. That's the same ancient circuitry, repurposed. Anthropologist Sarah Blaffer-Hordai has written extensively about how human survival for most of our history depended on this kind of hypervigilance, on treating uncertain threats as certain ones. The humans who assumed the worst about being trapped and reacted accordingly were the ones who lived long enough to pass that reaction down. The ones who stayed calm in the ravine, waiting to see what would happen, sometimes didn't get a second chance to learn from the mistake. So here you are, generations later, standing in a stalled elevator with your phone getting signal, security cameras nearby, and a call button 2 inches from your hand. And your body still reacts like you're standing at the mouth of a cave with no other way out. It's not broken. It's not irrational. It's an inheritance. A warning system built for a world of ravines and thickets, still running in a world of elevators and office buildings, because evolution doesn't update the software just because the hardware moved indoors. The next time that tightness rises in your chest, the sweat, the racing thoughts, remember what's actually happening. You're not malfunctioning. You're hearing from someone very old, someone who never saw a building in their life, but who is still, somehow, standing right beside you. And when the doors finally open, and you step out into the hallway, take a breath, because that panic wasn't a flaw in your design. It was the reason your ancestors survived long enough for you to exist at all.